he had every reason to stop. Brutus was chained, alone, and left for dead behind a forgotten farm. No one remembered when he was last fed, but he never stopped wagging his tail. Maya, the only one who dared to kneel beside him, saw past the scar on his face. She saw the dog he used to be. The city did not care. "Dangerous," they wrote on the report. Theo did not believe in rescue cases until he saw that tail. Slow, steady, hopeful. But time was running out. The kennel was full. The order was coming. And then, when it mattered most, Brutus did something no one expected. Before we continue, do me a favor, hit like and subscribe so you never miss. The chain had become part of the ground. It was buried beneath mud and rotting leaves, rusted through in patches, and knotted around the base of an old oak stake. The metal links clinked softly when the wind picked up, the sound almost lost beneath. The creaking boards of the collapsing barn behind it. At the end of the chain lay Brutus. He did not bark. He did not whine. He only watched. His fur, once sleek and proud, was matted with dirt and dried blood. His ribs pushed through his ash-gray coat like fence posts. A scar ran down over his left eye, half closing it, but the other eye remained sharp, watchful. He looked at the fields, not in fear, but in waiting. A stillness that came not from calm, but from being forgotten long enough to stop expecting anything different. He had water when it rained. He had food when some stranger tossed scraps over the fence, usually bones or bread gone stiff. The cold did not leave his side. Nights were the worst, cold air, snapping wind, and coyotes howling just beyond the trees. But through it all, his tail moved. Not quickly, just enough. Enough to say, "I am still here." The town had stopped caring. The man who once lived on the property had vanished after his arrest. Meth, some said. Others said he had skipped bail. Whatever the truth, no one came back for Brutus. The farm had been condemned, but not yet cleared. And in that gap between enforcement and bureaucracy, Brutus was left. People saw him. Kids whispered. Adults shook their heads. "That dog's too far gone," they muttered. "Mean-looking," they said. "Dangerous." But no one got close. No one, until Maya. She stepped through the broken gate with cautious steps and leather boots that sank halfway into the muck. Her jacket bore the patch of the county animal control, but she wore no badge. This was not official. This was not reported. She was not even supposed to be here. But she had seen him. She had driven past this road too many times. One day, she slowed, then stopped, then walked. The smell hit her first, wet wood, urine, and rust. But then she saw the movement. Not the head, not the legs, just the tail. It wagged once, and then again. She said nothing. She crouched low. The mud soaked her jeans at the knee. Her gloved hand pulled something from her pack, a folded red fleece blanket. She laid it near him, but not too near. She left a soft piece of jerky on top. Brutus looked. He did not move, but he watched. When she stepped back and sat on the low beam of a broken fence, she saw his nose twitch. Then his body shift. Slowly, carefully, he inched toward the food. He took it without a sound. His head turned sideways as he chewed, wary of sudden moves. Maya stayed still. He wagged again. That was all she needed. She returned the next day, and the next. Each time, she brought food, fresh water, something warm. Each time, she sat nearby, close enough to be seen, far enough not to be a threat. It took 4 days before Brutus lay on the blanket. It took 7 before he let her touch his paw. But time was not on their side. The city had reviewed the property. Notices were stapled to the rotting barn. Condemned. Demolition pending. A date had been set. Maya knew what that meant. If the dog was still on site, he would be handled as feral livestock. That meant euthanasia. No trial, no report. Just a needle in the back of a van. She tried everything. She filled out transfer papers, called the rescue shelters, sent emails to the city manager. Each time, she hit a wall. He was too big. Too old, too scary-looking, no behavior record, no known owner. The system was made to close cases, not save lives. And still, he wagged. The chain had worn his fur down around the neck. Maya hated it, hated the way it clinked every time he shifted. She brought bolt cutters, but he flinched when she neared the collar. Not out of aggression, out of memory. She stopped trying to cut it. She tried to build trust instead. One evening, as the clouds broke just long enough to show a slice of amber sky, she heard a low voice behind her. "That the dog?" She turned. Theo stood there, arms crossed, wearing an oil-stained jacket. He was the town's mechanic. His shop was near the county line, known for being fast and not asking too many questions. She nodded. "You wasting your time," he said. "That dog's done. He's dead inside. Just doesn't know it yet." Maya didn't answer. Theo looked again. Then he saw it. Brutus wagged. Theo squinted, then walked away. But he came back the next night. Said nothing. Just stood there. The third night, he brought half a burger. Maya looked at him. "Thought he was done." "Maybe," he said. "Maybe not." But the notice date was now just 5 days away. Maya stayed up late calling every contact she had. Theo started welding something behind his shop. Something with walls and a heater. She brought toys, treats, more blankets. But Brutus still had a chain around his neck, and the van would arrive on Friday. On Thursday night, the air turned colder than it had all season. Maya found frost on the gate. Brutus was curled tight in the blanket, his breath fogged in the air. She sat beside him for an hour. No words, just presence. She knew this might be goodbye. And that night, long after she left, something changed. The wind howled louder. The barn groaned, and in the stillness just before dawn, Brutus raised his head. He heard something moving behind the boards, something too small to be wind, too soft to be threat. And then, a child's scream. The sound was sharp. A high, sudden cry swallowed by the morning fog. Brutus rose before he was fully awake. His legs were stiff. The scar above his eye throbbed in the cold. But instinct outran pain. He moved toward the barn's side wall, tugging the chain tight around the old oak stake. There. Again. A rustle. Then a voice. Small. Scared. Help. The boards on the barn's far side had split where the roof had caved in. A child had fallen through, likely exploring the ruins before school. The floor had rotted from years of damp. One footstep wrong, and the planks gave out. Brutus could not see the boy, but he could smell him. Fear. Dirt. Fresh blood. He growled, not at the boy, but at the chain. His paws scraped the ground, twisting, pulling. The metal links groaned under pressure, but they held. Then something snapped. Not the chain, but the stake. The ground had softened from frost melt. Brutus yanked again. This time, the oak stake lurched sideways. A third pull. A fourth. The stake broke loose, dragging through the muck as Brutus surged forward. He disappeared into the barn's shadow. Inside, the boy clung to a beam just above the hole in the floor. Below him, a pit of splintered wood, sharp nails, and rusted farm debris. A broken ladder hung at an angle too short to help. His hands shook. Then he saw the dog. Brutus stood still, head low, ears back. The boy froze. His legs slipped slightly. "Go away," he whimpered. But Brutus didn't move. Instead, he looked up and wagged his tail, just once. The boy blinked, confused. Then Brutus walked a slow circle around the space, sniffing. He stepped lightly, avoiding the cracks. He found a path, pressed his weight forward, and sat beneath the beam. The boy's hands gave out. He fell, directly onto Brutus's back. Brutus staggered, but did not fall. He stayed upright, muscles tensing to absorb the weight. The boy rolled off into the dirt, coughing. He looked up, eyes wide. Brutus licked his hand. That was the moment Theo arrived. He had come to check on the heating system he was building behind the barn. He had not expected to see a child in tears, sitting beside a scarred dog inside a condemned structure. "What the hell?" He started, then stopped. Brutus stood still between them. Theo stepped forward, slowly. "You all right, kid?" The boy nodded. He caught me." Theo stared at Brutus. "He what?" "I fell. He caught me." Theo called Maya from his truck. She arrived 10 minutes later, sirens off. By then, Brutus was lying beside the boy like an old guardian. "What happened?" she asked, crouching beside the child. "He saved me," the boy whispered. Maya looked at Theo. Theo didn't speak for a long time. Then finally he said, "Get in the truck." They loaded Brutus into the back of Theo's pickup, blankets and all. The boy rode in the cab, wrapped in Maya's jacket. No one said it aloud, but the decision had already been made. The demolition crew arrived the next morning. The barn came down, but Brutus was no longer there. He was in Theo's shop. Theo had converted the back bay into a makeshift kennel. The walls were lined with insulation. A space heater buzzed in the corner. In the middle sat a clean dog bed. Brutus did not use it at first. He lay on the floor instead, watching, always watching. Maya visited twice a day. Theo fed him beef scraps and cleaned his bowl. They never forced him. They let him be. On the third night, Brutus stepped into the bed. On the fourth, he wagged when Maya entered. The boy's story spread quickly. The scarred dog who saved a life. Local blogs picked it up. Then regional papers. Photos circulated. Brutus in the truck. Brutus beside the broken beam. Brutus sleeping under the red fleece blanket. Donations poured in, and then came the letter. Maya found it taped to the shelter door. Immediate relinquishment order. Subject: Brutus, no last name. Signed by the county. The story was spreading too fast. The officials had taken notice. They claimed Brutus had been moved illegally, that he was property of the city until formally cleared for adoption. They wanted him back. Into the system. Into the kennel. Theo tore the letter in half. "They can go to hell," he growled. But Maya knew it would not be that simple. They needed a formal hearing, evidence, testimony, and a licensed handler to sign off on temperament. Brutus would be evaluated, in a room, under pressure. One wrong move, and the city could label him a liability. Maya paced the floor. "He saved that kid. Isn't that enough?" "They won't care," Theo said. "They want clean cases, not complicated dogs. Maya stared at Brutus. He looked back at her. His tail wagged. She made the call. The evaluation was scheduled for Friday, 1 week from the rescue. Theo said he'd go with her. Maya prepared every document she had: vet notes, photos, testimony from the boy's parents. But something shifted midweek. Brutus began to eat less. He moved slower, slept more. His eyes stayed open longer at night, as if waiting for something. Then, on Thursday morning, Maya arrived to find the chain. It had been nailed to the shop wall, a twisted, rusted length of metal, coiled like a snake. Below it, Brutus was gone. At first, Maya thought Theo had taken Brutus for a walk, but when she called him, his voice cracked. "I didn't move him." The line went silent for a moment. "Maybe he slipped out," Theo added, but they both knew that was impossible. The shop was locked from the inside. Brutus did not paw at doors. He did not bark or scratch. And he was weak lately, too weak to leap the fence behind the building. Maya hung up and drove straight over. The red fleece blanket was still there, untouched. The food bowl was half full. The water dish had not been touched since yesterday. She paced the floor, her eyes scanning every corner. No blood, no fur, no paw prints on the concrete, only the chain. It hung from the wall where Theo had nailed it, a crude symbol of everything Brutus had survived. Maya stared at it for a long time, then reached out and touched the cold metal. It was heavy, sharp in places, still stained with dirt. Something was wrong. That evening, Maya drove back to the barn site. The demolition crew had cleared most of the rubble, but the old oak stake was still there, splintered and broken. She walked through the wreckage, calling his name softly. Brutus. No sound, no movement, just the wind pushing through the trees and the distant rumble of trucks on the highway. She went home that night, but did not sleep. The next morning, a call came through dispatch. "Hey, Maya, we've got something weird. You might want to check it out." The address was a property on the edge of town, abandoned, foreclosed, set for auction. The neighbor had called in, said they saw a large dog sitting in the front yard, not moving, just staring at the house. When Maya arrived, she saw him instantly. Brutus, sitting like a statue on the front steps of a rotting house. She parked and stepped out slowly, heart pounding. He looked thinner. His coat was duller, but his tail wagged just once when he saw her. She crouched down. Brutus. He did not approach. He turned and looked at the door behind him. Maya stepped closer and noticed the house number. Her breath caught. It was the address on Brutus's intake report, the last known location of the man who had owned him before the arrest. This was where it had started, where the chain had first been fastened around his neck, where the hunger had begun. Brutus had come home. But why? She sat on the cracked steps beside him. He leaned slightly against her knee. She did not speak. She just listened to the birds, the rustle of wind through dead trees, the way Brutus's breath came in short, slow waves. She called Theo. "You're not going to believe this," she said, but before she could explain, Theo interrupted. "You need to come back," he said. "Now. Someone was here. They were looking for him." "What do you mean?" "County vehicle, badge on the dash. They knocked, took pictures, said nothing." Maya stood. Brutus did not move. "They're going to take him," Theo said. "No," Maya whispered. "Not yet." She stood and turned to Brutus. "You ready?" His tail moved again. She opened the truck door. He stepped in without a sound. Back at the shop, Maya and Theo worked in silence. They reinforced the fence, sealed the gates, moved the bed to the inner bay where no one could see inside. Brutus lay down, slept. That night, Maya went home and wrote her report. She included everything: the boy, the barn, the chain, the address Brutus had returned to. She submitted it directly to the city's Animal Review Board. She knew it was a risk. She also knew they were already watching her. On Friday morning, the door of the shop rattled. Theo opened it. Two men stood outside. Suits. County vehicles parked behind them. "We're here for the dog." Theo crossed his arms. "Nope. This is an active animal control matter. You're interfering." Maya stepped forward from the back. I submitted. "A motion for stay? It's under review. Until it's approved, the dog is property of the county." Brutus walked to the doorway. He did not growl. He stood between Maya and the officers, body tense but still. The taller officer stepped forward. Brutus wagged. The man froze. Maya placed a hand on Brutus's shoulder. "You want to take him? You'll need a court order. He's not evidence. He's a survivor." The men exchanged glances. They turned and left. For now. But everyone knew they would be back. That night, Maya called the boy's parents. She needed a favor. The next day, the boy came to the shop. Brutus lifted his head. The boy approached slowly. Brutus sniffed his hand, then licked it. Maya snapped a photo. The boy sat on the floor beside him. "They're trying to take him?" Maya nodded. The boy looked at Brutus. "He saved me." "I know," she said. The boy stood. "Can I help?" "Yes," she said. "You already have." She sent the photo to the city manager. Then she sent it to the news. The story broke the next morning. Hero dog faces euthanasia despite saving. Child. The article went viral. Hashtags exploded. Donations surged. A petition began to circulate. And then Maya's phone rang. It was the city. They wanted a meeting. The board would convene in 3 days. Brutus would be evaluated on-site at the shop. If he passed, he would be released into Theo's custody under special exception. If he failed, they would come for him again. Maya hung up and stared at the chain still hanging on the wall. Then she looked at Brutus. "We're not done," she whispered. But as the sun began to set, Brutus stood suddenly. Alert. Focused. His ears twitched. His eyes narrowed. Then he walked to the shop door and growled. The growl was low, measured. Brutus stood like a statue in front of the shop door, his body tense, his tail still. It was the first time Maya had heard that sound from him, not out of fear or pain, but something else. Warning. She followed his gaze to the side window. Outside, the sun had just disappeared behind the trees. The yard was fading into blue-gray, shadow. At first, she saw nothing. Then, movement. A figure. Someone stood just beyond the fence, half hidden behind Theo's stack of scrap panels. Watching. Maya stepped forward, instinct kicking in. Brutus followed. The figure moved fast, slipping back into the trees beyond the property line. No vehicle, no sound, just gone. Theo came in seconds later, wiping grease off his hands. "What's going on?" "Someone was watching," Maya said. Theo's jaw tensed. "Again?" "Not county. No uniform. No clipboard." "Who then?" She looked at Brutus. He had returned to his bed, but hadn't relaxed. His eyes stayed on the door. "I don't know." she said. But he did. Theo pulled the gate bolt tighter. We need to be ready. The hearing's in 2 days. They doubled their watch. Maya stayed overnight on a cot in the corner. Brutus didn't sleep deeply. Every creak made him lift his head. He trusted her, but he also remembered. She thought about the day she found him, the way the chain had bitten into his neck, how he had wagged not out of joy, but as a quiet signal. I'm still alive. I'm still trying. The next morning, she found a new problem, waiting. On her windshield, taped, not tucked, was a photo. Brutus, chained, covered in blood. A fresh wound was across his shoulder in the image, not present now. On the back of the photo, one word was written in block pen. Evidence. She stormed into the animal control office with the photo in hand. The clerk looked up, startled. I didn't do it, he said instantly. Who did? I swear, I don't know. I've never seen that. Maya called the city manager. No, one admitted to sending it. Then the evaluation form arrived. They had changed the terms. No longer on site. Brutus was to be transported to the county shelter for formal testing. Controlled conditions. Outside handlers. A neutral panel. Maya argued. She begged. They refused. If he's safe, he'll pass, they said. But she knew better. A strange room. Men in masks. Loud doors. Fluorescent lights. It would undo everything. Brutus didn't bite. But fear changed dogs. Theo slammed the door when she told him. They want him to fail. Maya nodded. That's the point. Theo paced the garage, fists clenched. You think they sent that photo? I think someone doesn't want this dog to live. They sat in silence. Then Maya pulled out her phone. If we're going to do this, she said, we're doing it our way. That night, they posted the story again. This time, raw. They shared every image, every report, every visit, the boy's testimony, the blanket, the chain, the blood. Within hours, it had thousands of shares. And then, one voice changed everything. Retired military dog trainer, once contracted with the state, commented beneath the post, I'll evaluate him myself. You've got 24 hours. Maya called him immediately. He was blunt. Former K9 handler. Now ran a rehab center for last-chance dogs. He'd seen everything. War trauma, fight scars, shut-down eyes. He knew what fear looked like and what survival did to a soul. Is the dog broken? He asked. No, Maya said. Then I'll prove it. The next day, he arrived. His name was Luke. Leather skin, white beard, quiet boots. Brutus watched him carefully. Luke entered the bay alone. Maya waited by the door. Theo stood near the gate, no leash, no commands, just time. Luke sat on the floor. Brutus didn't move. Then, slowly, he approached. 5 minutes. Then 10. Then Brutus lay beside him. Luke looked at Maya. He's clean. She exhaled. But it wasn't over. The city refused to accept Luke's evaluation. They said it had to be conducted in an approved facility. Neutral. Luke smiled. Fine. We'll go. Maya panicked. You'll take him? I'll take him. Under my license. They won't say no to me. The county tried, but they lost. Brutus was transferred, legally, into Luke's custody for evaluation. It was temporary, but it bought time. Maya watched the truck leave, Brutus riding in the back with the red fleece under him. She didn't sleep that night. In the morning, she called Luke. He's nervous, Luke said, but calm, eating. He's ready. The evaluation was scheduled for noon. The county would be there. So would Maya. So would the boy. Theo closed the shop early. "This is it," he said. Maya nodded. But then the boy's mother called. He was missing. Left. For school. Never arrived. She was panicked, crying. Maya's heart sank. Theo checked the cameras. Nothing. Luke called from the center. "You're not going to believe this," he said. "I might," Maya replied. "Tell me," he sighed. "He's here, your dog, but he's pacing." "Why?" Luke stepped closer to Brutus. "I don't think he's waiting for me." Brutus stopped pacing, stared at the door, and then, far in the distance, came the sound of a child crying. The sound was faint, barely above the wind brushing the trees beyond the facility, but Brutus heard it. Luke watched as the dog stiffened, muscles locked, ears pricked. The same way he had seen military canines respond to gunfire in the distance, not with fear, but clarity. Focus. Brutus moved to the door. "What is it, boy?" Luke murmured. The crying continued. Then a shout, small, frantic. Brutus began to bark. It wasn't loud, but it was sharp, urgent, not the bark of a lost animal, but the voice of one who understood the stakes. Luke opened the gate. Brutus bolted, across the gravel lot, around the kennels, through the trees. Luke chased, but he was no match. Brutus moved like a shadow with purpose. Down a ditch, over a fence, into the wild brush behind the facility. The crying grew louder. By the time Luke caught up, he saw the boy, the same boy Brutus had saved once before, trapped at the edge of a drainage tunnel. His foot had slipped, between two rocks, twisted. Mud coated his jeans. His backpack was torn. He had wandered here trying to visit Brutus, cutting through back trails, unaware of the terrain. He had been trying to surprise them. Brutus stood between the boy and the exposed tunnel mouth, barking until Luke arrived. Luke lifted the boy gently, freeing his leg. It wasn't broken, but bruised, swollen. Brutus stayed at his side the entire time, pressed close, tail wagging just enough to say, "I am here." Luke called Maya. She arrived before the ambulance. The boy was safe. But Brutus was now more than that. He was witness. He was guardian. He was proof when the hearing began later that day. The city had no choice but to let it play out. Brutus stood calmly in the evaluation pen as Luke presented his findings. Maya spoke second. Theo, third. Then, unexpectedly, the boy asked to speak. They tried to stop him. He walked to the front of the room anyway, limping but steady. "I don't know about your rules," he said, voice cracking. "But I know what happened. Twice. I was in danger. I was alone. And both times, he came." He turned to Brutus, who sat just behind him. He didn't bark for help. He just came. He paused. He was chained, left behind, and still he came. The room was silent. Maya watched the city official shift in his seat. The committee whispered among themselves. Someone scribbled a note. Then, at last, the decision came. Unanimous. Brutus was cleared, declared safe, released into Theo's care, under the Good Samaritan clause for rehabilitated animals. Maya didn't cry. Not there. But when she returned to the shop that evening and saw Brutus curled up beneath the red fleece blanket, tail wagging softly in sleep, she stepped outside and let the tears come. A week passed, then two. Brutus began walking more, eating better. His coat thickened with shine. The scar over his eye faded into something familiar, like a story already told. Theo welded a new tag for his collar. Not from metal. From the rusted chain itself. He shaped it into a circle, small but strong, and etched in one word: home. Brutus wore it without complaint. The town changed too. More people stopped by the shop. Some to see the dog. Others to thank Maya. A few asked how to help. The boy brought friends. They laid beside Brutus on the floor, reading books out loud like he was a classmate. A mural appeared on the side of the barn remains, Brutus, tail wagging, chain broken behind him. One morning, as frost melted from the grass, Maya sat beside him and whispered, "You know you did it, right?" He looked at her, his tail thumped softly. "You made them listen." Brutus stood and walked to the gate. He paused, looked back once, then stepped into the sunlight. Theo joined her minutes later. "Where's he going?" Maya smiled. "Just walking." He wasn't running away. He was just walking free. For the first time in a long time, he had no place to be. And that, finally, was the point. Dogs truly are the most loyal companions in our lives. What did you think of this heartwarming story? Let us know in the comments. Like the video and share it with your friends. Subscribe to our channel for daily emotional dog stories. Turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Click here to watch the next story of love, loyalty, and the incredible bond we share with our paw-some friends.